I'm Julie Ryder. I'm at the Evergreen Dolmen with Dr. Sam from Bosnia. Dr. Sam travels the world looking at the energy rate in dolmens, ancient megalithic sites. He's the one that discovered the Bosnian Pyramids. So we came here to Evergreen Dolmen. Evergreen Dolmen is 83 feet above ground level. It's half the size of Thunderbolt above it, which is exactly 166 feet above ground level. This is halfway up. This whole dolmen is set into a cradle. Look at the outside, it's a perfect curved cradle so it doesn't tip and fall over during an earthquake. It's covered with geopolymer concrete, which is sloughing off. You can see pieces of it that have come off the two walls between it. Up here, there's a circular cylinder stacked on a tipped rectangular block, and in the back is a perfect cylinder that looks like it's been propped up, like wedged to keep the dolmen intact, perhaps during a former catastrophic event where the dolmen was not stable. So Spiral Mountain behind you is actually an island in an ancient riverbed. The satellite geoscans show that that's a river, an island in a riverbed, but on the other side of it is a huge complex with a step pyramid, with ramps and chambers that we believe had to do with water flow between and down into these ramps into the riverbed. Giant's Playground, as most of the megaliths here, are built on tributaries to the Missouri River. This is all the headwaters of the Missouri River. The unique thing about Evergreen Dolmen, it's by far the tallest in the world, and we're just seeing the very top of it. It's set on platforms, circular platforms all the way down, just like Starfire Duolith, set the same way, and the largest standing stone block in the world, 5,300 tons, is like a double one. Set into a cradle, comes up, and another story on top. It's over by Montana City. So this is part of an very, very, very ancient construction. The unique part about Giant's Playground is that it forms almost a rectangle with high walls supporting it. You have corridors, they make 90-degree angles. It was set up on a grid. I believe, my personal belief system at this moment, subject to change if we find something different, is that these structures are much older than the Benobird, the Buddha, Tartessia. They were added later because they're on the outside and they're a totally different type of concrete. So when what we call religion came into the fourth world, those were added to an already ancient site, which is very typical. One site builds on top of the next, because they're set on continuity, discontinuity lines, where those lines cross are high vortex energy, and that's where these sites are built. If you draw a line from Angkor Wat, Cambodia, across the top of the world, to Nazca, Peru, this is exactly on that line. So it's on an Earth energy grid line. So, Dr. Sam, what do you think about all this?
First of all, I like the way you name them. Giants Playground. It certainly looks like the giants were here playing with those huge stones, megaliths. Now, today we are visiting the tunnel, the tower, and Giants Playground. This is the first place where I did measure an anomaly in magnetic field. The magnetic field that I measure is in microtesla, and normal average values are anywhere from 25 to about 65 microtesla. Everything that is within this range is normal. If it is below, not good. If it is above, not good again. Usually when you have some technical radiations, for example CT or all other instruments in hospitals, it goes up to 200, 300, 400. It's very harmful for us. In the cities, usually it's rather pleasant. Villages, 35, 40, 45. And when you measure it in most places, you have only maybe 2 units of measurements difference. For example, 43 to 45, 37 to 39. But I did notice when I go to some active, energetical, megalithic sites, that this magnetic field has a much bigger numbers. For example, what we have here is from 21 microtesla to 55. So it is magnetic anomaly. What does that mean? Well, maybe it has something to do with the name of the structure, and that would be Dolmen. Dolmen, according to some, is the gate. Of course, over the time, the real purpose vanished. But if you go back to the time, gate. What gate? Energy gate, cosmic gate, gate between dimensions. It is possible. What we have here today, besides the magnetic anomaly, we have the choice of material. Granite. We could see pieces of red or pink granite. And really, red, gray, black. These are usual types of granites. Now, besides the fact that they are very hard and their duration is extremely long, meaning if you build something, you can count that thousands and thousands of years later, the structure will be there. Besides that fact, the second, of course, very important property is the presence of the quartz crystal. If you have just a regular, natural granite, it's about 15%, which is very high percentage. Even if it is 4%, just the mere presence of quartz crystal is enough to activate certain energy features. 15%, that's excellent, and you can rely on those energy properties. You did mention that the content of quartz crystal here is even higher than that. Quartz crystal has the ability to amplify the energy. And the second one is to transform the energy through the piezoelectrical effect. For example, if you have electromagnetism, and you have it basically everywhere, an electromagnetic field hits the quartz crystal through the piezoelectrical effect, you are getting ultrasound. And with certain frequencies, like in Bosnia, 28 kilohertz, which is healing frequency, then you can get to those specific frequencies which you can use for your benefits. Another example of the piezoelectrical effect are barbecues that we have at homes, gas barbecues. So what you do, you turn it on, so you have gas coming, you press the black button, you can see electricity coming out, and then you got the fire. What did you actually press? You pressed the piece of the quartz crystal. So you applied the force, the mechanical waves, and mechanical waves transformed to the electricity, to the electrical field, and that's why you got the fire, piezoelectrical effect. So obviously those who were moving those huge boulders were counting that by pressing those blocks they're gonna have this energetical effect. Why am I saying that somebody was moving those blocks? Well, the one that I'm sitting on, the one across, this is not their normal position. They used to be like here. They are also the product of the sedimentary process which lasted millions and millions of years. So this one is 90 degrees rotating. If it is rotated, it means somebody moved it to this position. This guy here, that guy there. Now, the one on the top, of course, laying horizontally. And that's the reason why it makes it dolmen. Definition of dolmen is the combination of the upright megaliths, at least 2 of them, sometimes 3, sometimes 5, 7, 10, and so on. Usually, if you have 2 or 3 of them, they are in Western France or Southern England, dolmens. Sometimes you have 5, 8, 10 of them, vertical, 2, 3, horizontal. That's the case in Sardinia, where they call them giant tombs, and Siberia. They look more like little houses because they are covered. So the one on the top looks like a roof. So they combine upright megaliths with the tabletop. Sometimes this tabletop is much bigger than those who are base uprights. In this particular case it's not. But still, if we count the mass, and let's do it right now, it's about 6 meters long, 2 meters high, 2 meters thick, 6 times 2, 12 times 2, 24 times 3, 72 tons. The one on the top, 72 tons. But what's most amazing is really the biggest one, the one right over here. So if we count this one, we have about 9 meters. The height is 7, 9 times 7 is 63. The average thickness is 2.5. 63 times 2.5 and 20, about 160 times 3, it's 480 tons. 400, it's almost 500 tons. How did they move it? Like I said, somebody moved it for about 90 degrees. And that opens up another question. Who were they? What's their architecture look like? Why would they build dolmens? Why would they build towers as you call them, or tunnels? Well, when we think about civilizations before our time, or beyond the time, we make a common mistake that we want to apply our concept of architecture to what was before. And in our architecture, we have our cities, towns, villages, we have our houses, we have our homes with the windows and doors and roofs. Let's forget that. You go to Machu Picchu in eastern Peru, you can see 4 distinctive civilizations. Let's forget what the official science is saying about the Incas using that as the royal retreat. Incas came the latest. The first civilization, they had block of 275 tons, which they moved from the nearby Bolivia. Even today that would be a nightmare. So, 275 tons. And we can see that those biggest blocks, they form rows of megaliths, and that's it. So, we don't have chambers, we don't have roofs. Why would they do something like that? Archaeologists for that site and another one in Peru, they call them unfinished rows of blocks. Well, they are finished to them, but not to original builders. Probably they were following some underground energy lines, they were relying on them, or they were simply using the mechanical pressure, stone on top of each other, producing certain types of the energies. And of course, at one point, our planet was much healthier, our planetary energy sources were much stronger. So once you count for that, piezoelectrical and the Schumann resonance, 7.83 Hertz, probably they were producing certain energy effects that they needed for their common activities. So I would say this is an amazing site. I want to congratulate you, Julie. I think that you are doing an amazing job, and I hope the names will stay in the future, because those names are telling us that yes, they are product of the intelligent hands. Who were they? During my short meditation, again, the first message was extremely, extremely old, much, much older than the mound builders on the US soil. The second one, the physical properties that they had, the beings, we always think about physical, that was not the major question, meaning they were probably somewhere between dimensions, spiritual and the physical. Also, I saw much bigger beings than us. So I would say that it remains to research, to open our minds, and to be open for different solutions, because they might surprise us.
I'm here with Dr. Sam from Bosnia, and I'm showing him the Starfire duolith. Duolith is my word. It means two monolithic stones that identically match with a horizontal line, equal distance all the way from the top to the bottom. We're finding these all over the world. There's some underground at Yonaguni. I said that wrong.
Yonaguni.
Thank you. In
monuments.
Japan. They're under the water. So here we have an area where you have a duolith that has a rounded bottom perfectly set into a cradle. The cradle keeps it from tipping over. So if an earthquake happens, it rocks but doesn't fall over. In front of it, there is a geopolymer, different type of concrete. We call it an accordion because it's split like this, and so it absorbs the shock of an earthquake horizontally. On this left side, you'll see a split, a diagonal split, all the way down that goes all the way through the rock. That rock is freestanding, balanced on a piece of concrete about this big. Balanced rocks. When the Rinpoche was here, he talked about being trained as a Buddhist, and their training was, they called it flying rocks. They would balanced rocks in these unusual shapes all the way to the top, and that's how one of the trainings they went through to become a Rinpoche, a Buddha. And they would talk about the long sounds they would make to actually elevate and balance the rocks. So this is Starfire Duolith. We're at Giants Playground in the Montana Megaliths. And Dr. Sam, what do you think?
I think the granite is amazing material. It takes a long time for granite to form. But at least we know how it forms. So looks like a sedimentation process. When you go to the sites where they used granite as the construction material, for example, Great Zimbabwe, that's the place where they have conical towers and hundreds of thousands of tons of granite. But they were cutting the granite in smaller plates, like tiles. How could they do that? Well, they knew that the granite which was on the top, exposed to the weather, was softer. So they were able to break it. The one which is below was much tougher, stronger. So basically, when they were using this tile type of construction, they were only using the surface granite. However, if you can find in the structure the harder parts and softer parts mixed together, that's a perfect sign that somebody was able to shape even very strong granite and that they were actually building something. But then places like Zimbabwe or South Africa or stone circles there that are extremely old, it's very tough to distinct between archaeology and geology. And unfortunately we have the same problem here. This is extremely old site. It is not like it was originally shaped. Why am I saying shaped? Look at this block. One possibility, it was one block which broke. Another one, what you just explained. Two pieces, almost exactly the same, one next to each other. However, what's more important for me is that they've been moved for 90 degrees. Because you see the layers on sides, the layers are coming off like this. Originally, they should be coming off horizontally. Meaning that all these blocks where you can see the layers coming off at 90 degrees, it means that they've been moved and rotated for 90 degrees. Each of the blocks is about 550 tons, together more than 1,100 tons. Now that's amazing feat to move this. These are not the only ones which have been moved. We could see many of them moved. And not only that, by building dolmens, they were showing extreme skills. But then by making balancing rocks, that's even more skillful. In order to make balancing rock, some places what they do, they placed one tabletop block and then basically it's touching 2 or 3 places, but just the tips of other blocks. So instead of going easier way to put it on the side so it has a solid support, they were playing that way that they wanted to show how skillful they were. But that was not the main reason though. The main reason was probably they were putting the major pressure on just one point, which in return would produce some energy effects. They would know which one. Now, going through those Montana Megaliths today, I have concluded that besides the extreme age, these sites were going through several global catastrophes. One of them, of course, 30,000 something years back, that was the time that due to the solar flares that were burning the surface of the planet, they were destroying almost everything, which was of organic origin. The stone would withstand the fire. But what could not withstand was the water. The end of the last ice age, no matter which date we accept, 13,600, 12,500, 11,700, we are talking about roughly 12,000 years back. It means that those structures were here before then, and during that global catastrophe, huge tidal waves. I mean, we are talking about tsunamis of unimaginable power. You know, December 24, 2004, Indonesia, there was a tsunami there, which was about 25 meters, which is about 80 feet in height, 80 feet. It killed 225,000 people, 80 feet. Now imagine what we know for Europe for sure, that some of those ice layers, which were 3,000 meters or almost 10,000 feet thick, when the water would melt, then you would have such a powerful flood wave. They were reaching not 1,000 feet, but 3,000, even 5,000 feet. Can you imagine the power of 1,000 or 5,000 feet above us, the water coming at us? No escape for more than 99% of the people. But also, almost none of the structures that existed remain in its original shape. And that would explain such a level of destruction that we are witnessing nowadays. So the original architecture is gone forever. What we see are just the remnants. So some of the dolmens, some of the balancing rocks, but we don't see the general design, the project that they had when they started building this. We don't see the houses the way we build them today with the roofs, but we do see huge rocks standing sometimes on very straight lines, the walls. Why would they do that? It had to be energetically connected. So it has always been about the energy, just the ancients were finding different ways how to produce or amplify the energies.